Welcome, Darklings, to Season 3 of the Reign of Blood podcast. I'm Ember, one of your hosts, here to introduce you to the shadowy depths of what hopes to be our most sinister season yet. This season, your unholy trinity of organizers and hosts, Miss Kitten, Radically Dark, and myself, have entirely way too much fun with the Summer of Stabs, our 80s horror-themed series that promises to be both educational and thrilling. Our aim is to explore the macabre beauty that lies in the shadowed, or maybe not so shadowed, spaces of desire. Leading up to Reign of Blood Nightfall, our advanced Halloween extravaganza, we'll be discussing topics such as embodied and informed consent, risk mitigation, and other helpful tips, ensuring that every prick, slice, and puncture is as thought through as it is sensational for you. We'll also continue interviewing sharks enthusiasts from around the world to find out what makes the blood-loving heart tick. And maybe we'll talk Miss K into recording some more horror meditations for us. Join us as we explore the eerie, the edgy, and the exquisitely sharp. This is Reign of Blood, where the macabre meets the magnificent, and the only limit is your imagination, risk profile, and informed consent. Let the Summer of Stabs begin. But first, a content warning. This podcast is not suited for individuals who are not legal adults, are not interested in heavier BDSM practices, who are presently having severe mental or relationship health concerns, or who do not already understand basic BDSM practices regarding consent, ethics, risk mitigation, etc. Topics may include things like mental health issues, social issues, injustice, blood and sharks, of course, medical trauma, medical issues, trauma of various types, and more. Listener discretion is heavily advised.
Hey, my amazing shops lovers. It's so good to be back chatting to you about all things sharp and bloody. And we're in a new season. It's season 3 of our podcast, and we're really excited. We have a really incredible program running at the moment for Reign of Blood. It's called the Summer of Stabs. So you can get all your technical class information that you need for the Halloween event weekly in small doses by some really great educators. I've got some great classes coming up, so come and support a feral kitten as I teach you about the ties that bind and some sensational sharps stuff and all other bloody things. Radically Dark has some incredible classes, and our amazing Solaris is going to teach. So we'll kick off the season, and then we have some invited educators coming on after us. We're keeping them a secret for now. We'll let you know as we get closer to the time. And we'll be bringing you this podcast to back you up, to get you excited, and to get you into some stabby moods for Halloween. So this podcast will be chatting to our amazing Halloween educators, and I have the first one online with me tonight. And her star is here with me, Nova. And I'm so excited to A, announce that they are presenting for us at Reign of Blood, and B, have them in my dungeon and connect with them. Welcome, Nova, and thank you for joining me.
Hi, thank you for having me.
And Nova's class definitely caught my eye. I think I'd done a lot of fire, so anything with blood would have caught my eye at that time. But Nova, without me ruining it too much, do you want to tell everybody a little bit about your journey and how you came to play with sharp things, and then a little bit about your class?
Okay. Um, ah, give me a moment to think.
Yeah, chill. Sorry, did I
I'm
get
very
that wrong?
excited because I love blood.
I also love blood. I feel
Yeah.
you.
Um, I I would say that like I knew that very early. Like, um I was always very into like vampire media as a teenager, and um being a horny teenager really into blood and vampires, um it turned into kink pretty quickly. And I knew that I wanted to be a heavy sadist early on in my kink journey, and I trained formally with a dom uh to become a dom myself. And I knew blood. Well, I knew I wanted blood to be involved at some point, which my the dom who trained me, my mentor, actually was not a sharps top, so that was a the next journey that I went on after that was seeking that education, um which uh I don't play with needles, which I know is rare for sharps tops. I only do knives and scalpels and pokey things that aren't needles. um or hooks or porcupine quills. I don't do any of those. Um but I do play with sharp dental tools, which is the epic segue to the class I'm going to be teaching, which is about sadistic dental play.
Love that. I have to backtrack a little bit. We were chatting today and saying like a friend of mine was saying, you know, your love of blood and it's so rare. And I was like, I just looked at them with like these huge big eyes. Like if my love of blood was so rare, would Twilight be so popular? Like let's be totally let's
X.
just be totally real.
Yeah,
Who
the like there are a couple reasons why vampires are very popular in media, and like that could be a whole other podcast if you want that.
and I was just like, I was like, no, no, no. Blood is so much more mainstream than you even begin to realize. And it's just,
Mhm.
I just think that there are a lot of mainstream people who watch the stuff and don't quite understand what's happening in their head at the time or why they're so attracted to the process. But it is
Mhm.
so much more out there than people realize. I have this like, I have this ridiculous smile on my face. My cheeks actually hurt because I'm doing a blood podcast and I'm so excited about it.
Yay.
So I'm terrified. I know that your journey with sharp things doesn't include needles. I love the
Mhm.
two things that I love about chatting to you is you're so authentic, and you are so clear about your path, and it's so amazing to speak to a younger human who is so driven and so dedicated to learning and to acquiring
Ah.
knowledge. So I always have this I really admire you for that, and I always enjoy talking to you. So tell me more about the dental thing, because I have to tell you, like, of all the
Mhm.
sharp things I have in my dungeon, I don't own one dental tool. And until I read your class, I hadn't really conceptualized it as a kink. And it was so super exciting for me. And I'm just a little bit mind blown that it exists. Yeah. So what is it, and can you define how it fits into the world of BDSM?
So I would define dental play as any oral based play that involves some amount of dentist or role play. Um, so that could be um like a dental cleaning. I've seen people do orthodontics. I've seen people simulate or actually literally perform oral surgery as kink. Um, you could do tongue and mouth torture, blood play. There's a lot of different ways to incorporate that into kink. It's a pretty broad genre, I'd say. And you're definitely not alone with like not even considering um it as part of kink, because most people I talk to are come from the same place of like I've never thought about doing that as kink, which is wild to me because I feel like medvet is so popular. People are like, "Oh yeah, doctors, nurses, sexy," and I'm over here like, "What about the dentist?"
I have this passionate hate for the dentist. The poor guy he's a really nice man. He's great. His name is Grant, and he doesn't deserve half of my passionate hate towards him. Um, and I always feel like he needs trauma counseling after he's dealt with me. And it's ridiculous because I'm this masochist that you can literally put 100 needles into me and I smile and I giggle. And I just sit down in the chair and I'm in tears with him. So
Oh.
it's fascinating. The whole thing just fascinates me. And I have this like macabre, I'm drawn in this like macabre way to trying it now because I'm like, no, I have to try it. Now I have to know what it feels like. Um, so how did you get drawn into this? What started it for you? Because I'm understanding the sexy part of it now, and I'm
Mm.
understanding how it could be, how that like, because there's extra terror in me because I'm really scared of the dentist, and he's like a happy little fat man. He's really nice to me all the time. Um, so how did you get started? How did you get started in that? What drew you into this area? And how did you become an educator?
So we're kind of the opposite of you being very needles, yes, dentist, no. I'm very dentist, yes, needles, no. Uh, so I've kind of always loved going to the dentist. And so somewhere along the journey, it became very eroticized to me. And I I was seeking out like content or resources or like anything related to like dental fetish. And there is some out there, don't get me wrong, but there is not a lot, especially educational resources. Um, like mostly what I can find is like people who are documenting their experience like as a dental top and not necessarily teaching other people how to do it. And so I kind of felt the draw to step into that role and create my own education material and make this more accessible to people because I do think one of the reasons that this is so niche is that like people don't know about it or don't know how to start their journey.
You started a whole thing in my head because I was like, I've never considered the experience of visiting the dentist in this light. And I think that a lot of people with needle phobia do needles in play piercing eventually and have great success with overcoming the phobia of needles through doing it in with different intent. So just things are clicking in my brain going, if I tried this, because there's like a part of me that's desperate to advertise for a dental top wanted at this point in my area. But if I tried it and I put a different intent in the experience, that could be it could help me in other ways as well. So I'm seriously interested in it. You have my attention, and I've done a lot of medical play, and a lot of the doctor nurse stuff, but I've never ever in my life thought about the dentistry, and it's actually super cool. And I think there's a big attraction for me because of the fear, which is probably not the right way to want to do something, but it definitely
I
means
totally get that though.
yeah, and it's quite hot actually. Now I just need to find a hot dentist. Um, are there some common misconceptions? I mean, the whole kink is not common, so quite that's a bad way to ask the question. Um, but how do you, or are there some that you want to address, or anything that you want to bring to our attention here that we we should be more clear about?
Yeah, I do think when I bring it up to people, uh, there is a conception, I suppose, that or misconception that it isn't edge play, or at least that, like, not all of it is edge play, obviously, but like there are elements that can be, and I think um what people might think is edge play within the dental sphere um is not necessarily accurate. I feel like I'm not articulating myself very well, but it can be really dangerous is what I'm getting at. And I I think there's a couple reasons why people might not get that right away. And um firstly, it's because we put stuff in our mouths all the time without thinking about it. And um secondly, dental tools are actually like scary easy to get access to if you have access to online shopping. Um they're very cheap. You don't need a license. And I think some people have this misconception that if you can buy it online, that must mean that it's like not dangerous. Uh, not true. You could buy so many dangerous things online. Um, and yeah, there's kind of a reason why, for the most part, people only have their teeth touched with sharp tools by people, licensed professionals who have been practicing for years. Like, teeth are very, very important, and if you don't know what you're doing, they can be easily damaged, and that damage can be very, very, very expensive and painful.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a big deal if you're gonna be fucking with teeth.
Yeah, and I also think having someone in your mouth, like you don't get much more personal than that. That is
Yeah,
like, I mean, that is like incredibly intimate, like fearfully intimate for me. Um,
yeah, that's
and
why I love it. Like, that's so sexy.
and terrifying at the same time. And when you said
Hmm.
sexy, you make the terrifying even more terrifying and even more sexy all at once. Like,
Yeah.
like my heart starts to race, and I'm like, I'm in it to win it, but I'm terrified. It's amazing. Um, I also think you're starting to play in an area where um there needs to be an understanding of risk, which is why it classifies edge play for me. I think it starts to
Hmm.
also be a personal responsibility thing, and somebody coming up honestly and saying, I have the budget to play this game, or I don't have the budget to play this game,
Hmm.
and just being aware of that. And then also, I have the budget to fix myself if I play the game badly or it goes
Yes.
wrong. And the older you get, the more you realize that the dentist costs a huge amount of money. I'm sure I've bought two dentists brand new BMWs in their lifetime through my dental work. So,
Yeah.
my other love is horses, and I have had my teeth knocked out on several occasions. So, I
Oh,
think I think I've had a great addition to my dentist's car budget over the years through my riding.
oh
So
wow.
yeah, so there's definitely like you're being very honest about the costs. And then for me as well, because you're playing in this personal space and there is a risk of blood and stuff like that, the knowledge of things like the basics like blood pathogens and understanding
Hmm.
safety around all of that becomes super important. Um, yeah, so definitely it definitely ticks the edge play box, but that makes it even hotter for me. Which it
Oh
shouldn't
yeah.
be. It shouldn't be. It should be putting me off. It's not on any level. Just not with Grant, my dentist. I'm gonna need to find somebody else. Um,
Saliva too, is definitely like a fluid that people need to be aware of that I feel like is often overlooked because as I mentioned, like we be putting stuff in our mouths all the time. Like oral sex, we do that all the time. And I feel like people don't think about how like nasty spit is.
Well, I hadn't thought about how nasty spit was until you just said that sentence. This is probably the first
Because
time in my 40
I mean,
years that I've actually conceptualized those words and put them together. And you're right. You're
mhm.
very right. And it's definitely something that we should be thinking more carefully about. um, yeah, how do you make sure that this is done in a consensual and um safe environment? What are some things that come to mind when you're starting to negotiate extreme dentistry? You know, just in case there's a kitten in Africa who wants to try this stuff now. Not that we know anybody like that, but but
Mhm.
maybe just put some pointers out there in case there is a kitten.
Well, you definitely said it like risk awareness is so important. Like I can't stress enough like n needing to educate on what you're doing. Like I highly suggest that both tops and bottoms educate themselves on oral anatomy, oral chemistry, um, uh, the bacteria, the microbiome that is in your mouth is very unique as well. Uh, like learn about what is going on in there before you ever start. Also for tops, get a typodont. That is a mouth-shaped I want to say prosthetic, but I'm not sure that's the right word. It's a model that has you can get ones that have fixed teeth or removable teeth. If you want to do tooth pulls, that's very advanced, but that can be a goal. People do that. Then you'll want one with removable teeth, but it's essentially a model of the mouth that you can practice on. That's very important. Practice on that for months before you ever put your tools into a human mouth.
Awesome. I now have a whole new thing on my wish list. What is it called again? Sorry, say that again.
A typodont,
Typodont.
typodont.
A typodont. I have a sudden need for my own typodont. I also have a sudden need for dental tools, like of my own. I'm definitely gonna have to go and do some online shopping after this podcast.
They're very sharp, but you are also a sharp's top, so I trust you to understand the implications of that.
Yeah, you know you're not putting me off by telling me they're very sharp.
Yes. Though I do think people don't understand that they're very sharp. 'Cause they're just like, I don't know, I go to the dentist and it's fine. Like, yeah, but they know how to not hurt you for the most part. Some people have bad experiences and they come out all bloody in the mouth, which is also hot.
Just you're probably the first person in my life that's ever made the dentist hot. Like up until last week's episode with poor Grant, he was not hot at all, and going there was not hot. It was just traumatic. It's now suddenly there is a whole new spin on going to the dentist, and I'm desperate to see how sharp the dental tools are. Like you've got my interest
Mhm.
completely piqued. Um, what are some memorable experiences you've had in this kink? Share them so they can become somebody else's fantasies. There
Mhm.
might be a kitten looking looking to explore.
Um, Honestly, the memory that sticks out to me is an not necessarily um sexy or happy. Uh I don't know, maybe not sad, but maybe not happy either. I a- about a year ago, I was invited to a party to do a dental scene, and it was a pretty intense scene. I had my submissive in a dental gag, which, if you know anything about dental gags, they are like pretty rough to wear. Um, and I was doing a cleaning, which it involves scraping the teeth, which is very dangerous. And so it was like a pretty advanced scene. And I remember after we were done, the people who were watching being a little disappointed, because we were doing this intense edge play scene that involved this heavy power exchange. But there wasn't really, we didn't do any pain. It was just a cleaning. And I think that because there was not like any intense reaction from my submissive and there wasn't any blood or anything, it was kind of unsatisfying to watch. And I that was just like a funny thing to realize about dental play is that um like the most dramatic thing you could probably do is like tongue cutting. Because you can get a good amount of blood from that, just from cutting the very top layer of the skin of your tongue, because it's you can get a lot of blood out of your tongue, and it also heals very, very quickly. So the risk of that is actually not that high. Um, Compared to a tooth cleaning where you could accidentally scrape the enamel, and that can cause lifelong issues that can lead to needing dental work that is quite expensive. So like I would consider what we were doing like a lot more intense, a lot higher risk. But it it wasn't as interesting to watch. Um, and I guess that sort of leads to the lesson of like you need to comprehend like the risk of this practice. And even if my submissive is dressed in their little clothes and I'm pampering them being all in dental daddy mode, that doesn't mean that what we're doing isn't edge play.
That's so interesting. It really is because I think the experience is incredibly intimate. I think there's an incredible amount of trust. Like I have to tell you that if you to get in my mouth with a dental tool, um, Grant Grant writes me a script before I go and see him so that I don't traumatize him for the hour that I'm there and he doesn't have to watch a grown woman cry. So, just the idea of, and Grant doesn't have a dental gag, or he hasn't shown me his dental gag or tried to put it in my mouth once. So just the experience of having somebody allowing somebody into my mouth would be such a level of trust and such a level, let
Mhm.
alone letting someone who's not qualified clean my teeth. Like they was
Yeah.
like, I mean, Grant can barely do it without medication. I'm normally highly medicated for his protection, um, and that gives him the consent he needs to work in my mouth. But just the experience, the allowing somebody into your space that close, I definitely think for me it's an incredible intimate moment and something that I would be amazed to watch in a situation. I relate to what you're saying a lot because I think a lot of the kinks we do as demonstration kinks um don't always translate. And one thing I have learned in doing these things is that I don't do them for the audience. I do them for my submissive or for my partner in the scene. And it's more important about how we experience it than how other people experience it. But that's come with a bit of time during my kink journey. In the beginning, it was always judged on the reaction of the crowd, and now it's more important that my submissive has had a good experience and I've had a good experience. But yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that also comes with a bit of time, and I always feel a bit disappointed when people don't appreciate the intensity of something. Like even bastonado for me is sometimes a kink that people just don't understand. It's not like a blood spanking where it's violent and there's stuff thrown everywhere and the crowd gets splattered in blood and it's dramatic.
Ooh.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, no, that's hot. It's very hot. Especially when they put a big sign at the bottom of the stage. It says consensual blood play. Um, but like the whole audience is wowed by that. Where with Bastonado, the audience isn't as wowed by it, but the submissive that's on the table is definitely flattened by it. And the scene doesn't carry on for as long as a spanking scene would or something like that. But
Mm.
the after effects are much more intimate, and it's much more connecting for me than like a public spanking scene is, although people obviously prefer to see somebody's ass getting beaten than their feet. So it's just interesting. I'm fascinated by your dental thing. You've got my brain working overtime. How do you give advice to people like the kitten in Africa who's now super interested in doing this? What is some good advice as a starting off point?
Um, Definitely like as as a as a top like research the sort of topics that I've mentioned, oral anatomy, um hygiene, chemistry, or microbiome that lives in our mouths, um and practice on the type of dot. I would also suggest that people start with what they know. Um, so like you, for example, you do a lot of needles, and so like maybe you understand oral anatomy very intimately and you feel comfortable doing an oral piercing. I would say that is like very, very advanced play, very high risk. And I would not suggest that as introductory or even like um intermediate to advanced play for a lot of people, but if you're coming from a place of like a very experienced piercer, then maybe that would be what you would start with, and that seems more accessible and more in your risk profile than like a simulated tooth pull, which I would consider to be a lot lower risk.
Okay, you have me absolutely captivated. Like my brain is firing on all cylinders. I love doing, and it's funny how things connect in your brain, and you've been doing them for ages. Like one of my favorite piercings to do are cheek piercings.
Hmm.
Absolutely live for them, having them done and doing them. So giving and receiving. There's very little. I just absolutely live for them. The feeling of going through somebody's cheek with a needle is just, it's incredible. Um, so yeah, so I can definitely imagine putting needles in other oral areas now, and I'm gonna need to do that. That is
Yeah, for sure. Like,
incredible.
cheeks are difficult because you have the salivary gland going through there, but
Yes.
like if you're experienced piercing cheeks, then yeah, absolutely. Like that could be a good place to start for you.
And a
Tongues
dental
also
gag.
like heal very quickly, as I mentioned, but there's a lot of nerves and muscles going through your tongue. So knowing the right place to pierce takes a lot of practice and research, and I definitely would not recommend that for someone who is not intimately familiar with oral anatomy.
I I have all these, like, I just have this, like, now I just want to cut a tongue. You've ruined my summer.
Hmm.
Or somebody else's tongue summer. That just sounds
Uh,
absolutely frigging amazing. And then kissing somebody with a cut tongue. I think I found a whole new kink
if you're
in
gonna
5 minutes.
tongue cutting, I would highly recommend using the beveled edge of a needle instead of a scalpel, because it's really important that you don't get too deep into the tongue because of all those nerves and muscles that are in there. So it's easier to get just the top if you use a needle instead of a scalpel. That's my pro tip.
And you would get even closer with the needle in your hand, and it would be even
Hmm.
more intimate than having a scalpel. Yeah, I'm liking all of these pro tips. I'm gonna do some research though. I
Yes.
guarantee you that before um I've spent a good 6 months researching it, and I've come to your Halloween class. I will
Yeah.
avoid doing anything but the dentistry model, which I'm now Googling on Amazon and going to purchase. Definitely need to have one of those. Are there any ethical considerations that you have, and how do you navigate them when you're teaching this topic?
Um, Personally, my ethics align with providing the best education that I know how to and making it as accessible as possible. Because I can guarantee you there's someone out there right now pulling somebody's tooth with rusty pliers, no gloves. Uh, it's like people are gonna engage with the kink that they want to engage with. And I feel like I just want to make sure that there are safe places for people to learn more about risk and technique.
And safe places where they can chat about it too.
Yeah.
I think there's this overwhelming idea that fet life is the kink world. And I think people
Mm.
have blinkers on a little bit from that side, because there are a couple of, and I know from CBT, there are a couple of sites that you can release your videos. You don't get paid for them. They're free sites. They don't use credit card providers. And the sites are epic. They make fet life look like kindergarten. They make my work as a CBT top look like I am literally in the first class in kindergarten, and I'm not graduating, I'm not moving forward, I'm not doing anything. Probably because I take my ethical risks really seriously. Um, and I'm
Hmm.
not prepared to go into those areas. But there are literally sites where you can see people doing things, and not people doing things to other people doing things to themselves. And these videos
Hmm.
are available online. So, the reality is it's definitely happening.
Yeah.
Whether we educate on it or not, it's going to happen. And I'm so with you on the idea that the education, the more you can show people gold standard, you can't unsee something once you've seen it done properly. So the more you can show people a gold standard, the more people are inclined to put those gloves on. And gloves are fucking sexy, people. No glove, no love.
Oh
Like,
yeah.
gloves are so hot. Like, and you can get them in an array of different colors. You can get them to match outfits. You can snaz them up. There are like a million different options these days. But just making that available so that, like you say, people are going to do it anyway. And having a place to go is really important, because it really helps us understand risk. I think you don't know what you don't know. But once you've seen or you've heard it, you start to know what you don't know, and you start to know what you need to know. And you start to look
Hmm.
for it, and you start the quest for education. And I think more than anything, this is a quest for self-awareness and for education. So I love that attitude. I also think that this whole idea of mentorship is wonderful, but mentorship is not available to everybody. So having it accessible on a platform like Rain of Blood, for me, is incredibly important, because it means that the people that are doing this anyway, that don't have access to mentorship, have access to some form of gold standard. And gold standards are very, I'm using them very loosely in what I'm saying, but it's important to know that people are doing it, and that they're doing it in safer ways, and that you can have a look at the safer ways and take a little bit of that home with you, and then be more open to finding your own safer way to do something.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so I love that. Um, have you encountered any challenges from mainstream? I'm not sure how mainstream you put and how this could ever be put out into mainstream, but have you encountered any challenges from mainstream society or from the kink community regarding this?
No, and I think it's because most people that I talk to are hearing about it for the first time from me.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're not
it's
like coming in with like preconceived notions. They're just like, "Oh, that exists? Cool."
Yeah, no, I have to tell you, and I've read a lot of class lists and I've seen a lot of options available. This is the first time anything like this has been offered, and it's the first time I've literally sat down and thought about it, and I feel like I'm a little bit in frenzy at the moment. Poor Grant. Um, I'm in a little bit of frenzy about it because it's actually there's some elements that are super fucking hot of the whole thing. Like you can avoid the teeth completely and you could just do
Oh
oral
yeah.
piercing or the a little bit of
Hmm.
cutting or but just that having somebody's hand in your mouth. Like I never even I never even conceptualized how hot that could be until we started this conversation. And I'm definitely telling you it's going to be added to my fetish list now.
Hell
Um
yeah.
hell yeah.
But
That's
I
in
think
my
there's a lot
mouth.
of intersection because like oral training, I would say is like a different kink, and then like tongue and mouth torture is like a different practice. But like those things can be incorporated into dental play. I do think like what makes it dental play is the sort of like role play aspect of it.
Yeah, but and that's also like it's just a lot of what you're talking about. I've done in other ways in kink. Like we've definitely pierced the face, we've definitely pierced
Hmm.
cheeks, we've definitely worked around the mouth. Um, but having it done in a dental setting with a little bit of role play changes it up so completely. And for me, it
Yeah.
adds this like my heart starts to race thinking about it because there's a fear of dental work for me on any level. So as soon as the top had to sit down and say to me, we're going to do a dental scene, although we'd done all the oral stuff and I've had hands in my mouth and I've had forceps in my mouth because of the piercing, and I've had my tongue pierced, and I've had all of that. If you know how to change it up and just put um uh um a mask onto the top, a little dental hat,
Hmm.
and give that person the same forceps, the whole intent of the scene would be completely different. And I'm all in for it. I'm definitely there. It's
Yes.
but it's super cool to see how it can all connect, and I'm really fascinated by it. And finding resources and support systems for this, how did you go about it, and what have you found?
There's a lot of instructional dental content on YouTube that's super helpful in learning technique and safety. Also, I'll say it, I'll say it as many times as it takes. Get a typodont.
It's
Um, like, but yeah, and I have seen some educational material about like how to apply dentistry to kink. It's pretty difficult to find. Most of what I've found has been like um promotional material for in-person classes that happened years ago in places I don't live. So like people are out here teaching it, but it's just really not that accessible.
okay, and I think that the poor YouTube instructors would probably be turning in their grave if they knew why you were watching the YouTube videos. I love that. I love that
Yeah.
it makes it even 100 times more fun. I'll add a couple of their links. I'll see if I can get some links for the Reign of Blood on demand as well, and that's a great resource for us to be able to share as well, and to add, and for a random kitten in Africa if she wanted to do some dentistry, it would be a great starting point. If I see one, I'll let them know that that's a good that's a good place to start.
I can send you some specific videos that I think are good. I'm also if time and energy allows, I would like to have my own class that is about like more introductory basic stuff to help people um who might be new, because the technique I'm going over in my dark dentistry class, which is more of like intermediate technique that is focused on blood and sadism. So I would really like to be able to get a more beginning technique and fundamental like anatomy, chemistry kind of stuff. I'd love to have that available before that intermediate class, but we'll see if I can get it done.
I'm going to chat to you quietly afterwards about seeing if we can't get that as a class onto Summer of Stabs, but I will do that quietly after this podcast.
Okay.
Um, and I will just the last question that I have. I mean, I have about 570 million questions, so it's not really the last
Oh
question. I'm
yeah.
sure your inbox is now going to be
Yeah,
full for
yeah,
the next
we can
6
keep
months.
talking after.
Um, how do you see the future of extreme dentistry evolving in kink? And where would you like it to go?
Honestly, I just want it to be more popular and to be more embraced in the MedFet community. Because right now, it seems very much like in its own bubble. I think a lot of people I talk to don't even consider it as being part of MedFet, which I kind of get personally as someone who is like only into dental play and is like not that into like other uh medical fetish stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm not it being separate doesn't really bother me, but it is also like at the end of the day, like it is medical play, so it'd be cool if it was talked about more.
I absolutely, absolutely love that. I've loved this chat. You have changed my outlook on Grant. I'm gonna look at Grant differently.
Yay.
Yay for Grant. His trauma might be over. Um, and my listeners, we're so glad to be back with Sharps Chats. We want to chat to you if you're a Sharps player and you want to talk to us on Rain of Blood. We'd love to have you on the podcast. We'd love to hear about your journey. We'd love you to come to our Summer of Stabs and join us for some technical classes. The idea being that we give you the technical stuff that will be shown at Halloween so that you have a bit of understanding 101, 201, 301 when you see the more experienced players doing their demos on our Halloween event. We have some incredible stuff coming on our Halloween event. I can't give it all away, but all I can tell you is there will be blood. There is a lot of blood coming this summer. It's going to be bloody. And we hope that you're going to bloody well join us. And we hope that you have a look at your tickets. Early bird should be coming out soon. As always, if you need a scholarship for any of our classes, please give us a shout. We believe education should be for everybody. And we're really excited to announce that we have our Patreon up and running. So any 101, 201 stuff that we've done before that we did last season on Reign of Blood will be available on our Patreon. There is something for everyone on Patreon, and we really would love you to connect with us. Radically Dark also has some incredible Halloween stencils becoming available on our Patreon. So check us out, and the links are in the bio. Please give Nova a follow and show their star selves so much love because they have the most incredible work and they really deserve to be supported. And we hope that you are having a bloody good summer. If not, join us for some more. And from wherever you are, from my dungeon in Cape Town, lots of love and kitten kisses.